Hi everyone, I'm Stuart from ERGOS and I'm joined today by Leigh from Connectwise.
Thanks, Stuart. Appreciate being here. I work for a company called Connectwise. We're a software vendor. Specifically, I work as a cybersecurity advisor, a principal sales engineer. So I demonstrate our cybersecurity products and talk about them in events in terms of what's happening in the cyber threat landscape and what we need to be looking for in terms of our technology approaches. I've come from a variety of backgrounds. So used to work in enterprise, used to work in MSPs. I'm a graduate of computer science and artificial intelligence back when it was quite basic. I got into it because of computer gaming. So it's changed quite a bit since then. But it's always a very interesting subject matter, and the AI and cybersecurity do align very, very closely. So we'll get into it a little bit more as we go through today.
Oh, perfect. Well, thank you for joining us. Pleasure to have you. And today we're talking about the role of AI specifically in security and more specifically in the SentinelOne product.
There's a lot of challenges in cybersecurity, and some of the biggest challenges are how to deal with the scale of data. So when we're looking after cybersecurity, we have to understand what's happening in environments. We have to look at threat indicators, and it's a very manual task. SentinelOne have invested in AI quite heavily from the outset as a company. So they started up as a company that utilized AI. And the reason they did that was to try to address that operational efficiency issue with the scale of information coming through. Most cybersecurity technologies are only as good as their threat intelligence. And threat intelligence, simply put, it's your understanding of the threats that are occurring. Now, those change all the time. So it's an ongoing effort to keep up to date with it. What SentinelOne done, and this was probably from their outset 7, 8, 9 years ago when they sort of started and founded, they were feeding all the information into an AI model. And AI models are very good at looking for trends and looking for things that stick out. They're not the normal scenario. What they use that to do is to then give that information to a small number of really highly experienced, skilled threat analysts and threat researchers that could go, yeah, I agree, that looks like something we should be looking for. And they built the platform on that. So they started training the models. They also allowed some of the capability for the end users themselves, so people using it, just feeding back and saying, no, you got that wrong, that's legitimate, and learn from that as well. All of this kind of results in a ability to scale very quickly, which is essential because all the threats are scaling really quickly and they're changing very, very quickly. So platforms like SentinelOne and others that use AI, typically they tend to be more reactive than any of the other solutions out there because they can adapt very quickly. And that's probably the key piece for me in terms of AI and cybersecurity, is that adaptability.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. So Leigh, AI brings power, but also complexity. So what should businesses be aware of ethically, technically, and operationally?
Yeah, good question. So starting with the ethics, we need to think about ethics when we look at AI because of the way AI has been trained. It's simulating human behavior, but it's using human data to get that. So it's simulated data from yourself that you submitted, my data, other people's data. So the ethics needs to come into it that unless you could be transparent and confident in the way that you're describing the use of that data and there is a benefit to the end user, it's probably not good from an ethics standpoint. There should be benefits to the user data that you've used, and it should be individual benefits to that user.
Okay, and great, thank you. And so misconceptions. There's a lot of hype and fear around AI. What are some of the common myths that you could bust for us?
Yeah, so there's a lot. So there's a few. So some of them, there's the fear side of AI. So that's one of the big myths. I'd say fear side is one of them. Also the efficiencies you can gather. Now, what has happened is that both the fear and the capability have been overhyped. And the reason it's been overhyped because it generates noise. It generates drama. It generates the ability for these companies to start increasing the valuation of what they're doing. So if I own one of these AI companies and I turn around and say, look, if you don't do something in the next 3 months, our tool is going to be able to take over everything. Now, what's the implications of that? Okay, everybody gets scared, but it also goes, wow, that tool must be amazing. I need to be a part of that. Unfortunately, a lot of the owners, they're generating the drama because it artificially raises the capability of the tool set.
No such thing as bad publicity.
This is exactly that, especially in a tool set where your main income stream is private investment.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these companies, they don't have an income stream outside of the investment and the potential income in the future.
And I guess a lot of them are new startups. And so use cases, can you share some real world examples of how companies are using AI responsibly in their cybersecurity strategies?
Yeah, so there are lots of use cases where companies are using AI. Now, Google recently did a survey. They listed, I think, 632 companies that were using AI, and they showed the business use cases. And I think that's really valuable because there's a lot of hype in terms of how AI can transform parts of a business, but there's probably only certain types of business that are experiencing that full transformation. For most businesses, at the moment, they're struggling to see that significant change. By publicizing this is how other companies are doing it is quite useful. Also, you can look at your own business vertical. So if you want to go and look, I think it's Google's 632 business use cases, I think is the article. And they list different companies. So for instance, in the financial markets, they've used AI for a while to look for investment trends and to look for when they should invest in certain types of companies. For business accounting type software, they look for trends and patterns and anomalies in the way people are paying, look for unusual payment habits. In things like surveying, for instance, we might be looking at looking for pattern recognition on geological scanning and looking for anomalies in large data sets. And in any of the types of marketing type operations or any operations where you've got to deal with written word or producing documentation, then AI is used to give suggestions on that. Now, some of the best use of those are actually when you get AI to critique your own document. You don't get it to create your document, but you get it to critique it.
Yes.
And from personal experience, I've been doing that for a while with on the grammar side of it, because I wasn't always great with my grammar. So for quite a lot of years now, I've been having an AI or an equivalent look at my grammar and go, this would be a better suggestion for writing.
Yes.
That's helped me.
And you start to learn, because once it's pointed it out, then you'd start to take it on board and use the tool less and less.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, if you use it as that accompaniment tool to help you improve upon what you're doing, yeah, you do learn from it. I think from a very early phase, that's pretty much how I learned my spelling, was from computing and spell checking.
Yeah.
Because I then got into a pattern of behavior, realizing when I was spelling things incorrectly, and then I go, I need to make a mental note of that.
Exactly, and you learn and you move on. And I think, especially for maybe some of the smaller SME businesses, that's a great place to start, where you're starting to think, okay, not so much what can AI do for me, but what problems within my business could I look at? What efficiencies could I move on from? And I think that's maybe more of a wider discussion, but that's really useful. So, final thoughts, are there any sort of takeaways for businesses? What should they be looking at if they were going to embrace AI security?
Yeah, so I would say two different aspects of it. So if you're looking to embrace AI, make sure you're looking at real world use cases. So I think you mentioned it there, start small.
Yeah.
Humans take a while to adapt in the way that they work and change their working behaviors. You can put the best AI tool in the world. If the humans aren't ready to adapt and utilize it, it's just going to be shelfware.
Yeah.
Worse still, if it's got capability to be quite destructive, you can have serious problems.
Yeah.
There's been some companies recently where AI has been allowed to produce code for them, deleted production databases on its own.
Yeah.
Because they've given it too many controls. And
be held in check.
It does, yeah. And I like to use the analogy of like an excavator. So in the right hands and understanding what you're doing, you can build a bridge, you can build roads, you can build buildings. But at the moment, everybody's been given the keys to an excavator and told how the handles work.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
It's dangerous. You can absolutely destroy what you've got already as opposed to making things better. So start off small, start off with the practical use cases. Things like I said, working through your grammar.
Yeah.
Things like checking your second thoughts. And try to do it with companies that are ethical, or at least are open and public about supporting things like GDPR, open and public about supporting things like the AI Act. There are a lot of small startups up in there, and many of those have been created through things like vibe coding, actually used AI to generate the platforms and the processes. They look great on the surface, but they're coming from teams that have no prior experience of actually developing.
They don't really understand what they've created.
Yeah, don't understand what they've created, and they're not following effective and secure software practices.
Yeah.
Which the larger companies have had to develop over time.
Yeah, I understand. For compliance reasons, they can always go back to previous versions.
Yeah, and that's not to rule out those smaller companies, because they can do it well as well. But just be aware of it. Look for their privacy policies. Understand how they're trying to secure your data and look after your data as well.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to be in a much better playing field. And then going back to the cybersecurity side, yes, utilize tools that leverage AI to help scale and effectively multiply what that tool does. So we mentioned SentinelOne earlier, very, very good tool for endpoint protection because it's utilizing AI to help scale and look for threats. There are other technologies out there as well that utilize the same sort of technology standards, again, to help look for those threats, because cybersecurity threats, they are scaling with AI as well. Threat actors are using those same tools. They're using automated bots. Deepfakes, yep. Yeah. More and more of that stuff is coming through, and it's targeting everybody.
Yeah. No, that's brilliant. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Stuart.
Thanks, Leigh.